Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Finance and Administration Committee of Thursday, August 12th, 2021. It is in fact 9:32 a.m. and I'm going to call this meeting to order. I hope that some of us got a little bit of holidays. Ha ha ha. I'm sure that everyone had a very busy July despite not being a county. Has roll call been taken, please?
Through you, Chair to Committee, yes, roll call has been taken.
Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none. Can I get an adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting held on June 17th, 2021, please? Moved by Councillor Hunt, second by Councillor Brose. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. So we have no delegations. So at this time, I'm going to pass this over to Mr. Morrow for his administration report. And I will just note that there was an addendum sent out late yesterday. We realized that it should be number 7, but that can be renumbered for county. So Paul, take it away.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to committee. The first item in the administration report is the update on the public COVID-19 communications. So simply said, we continue to make sure there is positive reinforcement of the messages out there on the efforts around COVID-19, probably more important than ever now that we see we're starting to enter a 4th wave. So critical to push those vaccination clinics that continue. And again, now more than ever, our paramedics are leading the efforts around vaccination. So Chair, that is item number 1. I'll move to item number 2. And that is the Canada Community Revitalization Fund. And again, just an application again to push our efforts with respect to the trail and the development of the Algonquin Trail through the county of Renfrew. And Chair, as we go through this, I believe Mr. Kelly is on the call. He may have more to add on that one. Item number 3, Chair, the Municipal Advisory Committee. Again, just noting that we plan to have a Zoom meeting and reinvigorate that committee and again, refocus our efforts on accessibility within the County of Renfrew. As you're aware, we've had an audit here by the Province of Ontario, and we continue to make efforts to improve accessibility, not just to physical accessibility, but primarily right now is our policy documents, our reports, and those documents that are online, and they do present the biggest challenge to us. Chair, continuing on, number 4, the federal provincial broadband announcement. There was some chatter, I believe, before we started the meeting on that. And again, Mr. Kelly may have something to add on that, as well as the warden, who has been spending a significant amount of her time dealing with the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus and EORN regarding these announcements. In fact, not to take away her thunder, but spent part of her day, I think it was July 29th, meeting with Ministers Monsef and Minister Surma to talk about the EORN gig project and where that might fit. And, we've learned since it doesn't fit, but again, the new role of the EOWC, and that will be to ensure that what the government has proposed, we will hold them to that to make sure that our residents are taken care of. Number 5, again, this was in all of the reports, and it was in the reports because AMO will occur in between committees and county council. So we wanted to ensure that the AMO delegation position papers were provided to all members of council in advance so everyone could see those topics. We asked for 5 delegations and we received approval on 3. Our 3 delegations will be Minister Elliott, and the focus of that conversation will be VTAC. Our second delegation will be long-term care. And again, the focus there will be the Long-Term Care Commission report and the county's position on those recommendations. And that will be with Minister Phillips. And finally, our last delegation that we received approval for will be with PA McDonnell as opposed to Minister Clark. However, with that topic, we will be talking about the seniors housing strategy and the importance of providing that continuum of care in our community, but making sure that we have opportunities to entice new housing starts in our community that are suitable for that segment of our community. So real emphasis on those. So we did meet earlier in the week with a number of chairs to talk about who will be leading those discussions, and I'll leave that to the warden to add to. And then finally are the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus briefing notes. And those, I must say, align very well with the positions of the County of Renfrew. And like I've said at previous meetings, important to note that that is a direct result of the warden of the County of Renfrew playing that influential role and influencing the direction of the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus to make sure that those items that we have an interest also get some, profile at the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus and get brought forward. So you'll see a real alignment between the two sets of documents. So a real opportunity for the warden to play that role and voice those concerns that we've raised at the multi-ministerial table, as well as with the NDP caucus. And we have also asked for a meeting with the Liberal caucus. So some real opportunities, like I said, to have that heard, those issues heard through a different forum. So Chair, that concludes the administration report.
Paul, you do have an addendum. However, it is a recommendation, so I think I'll do information first.
Okay.
Excellent. So information item number 1, COVID communications. Item number 2, the revitalization fund. Item number 3, our accessibility advisory committee. Number 4, the broadband announcement. Warden, did you want to speak to this?
Yes, please, Chair. Again, because many of you were involved in a number of meetings that EORN and the EOWC had trying to get the, I think the number is 113 municipalities together to lobby the province and the feds to consider the gig project for EORN. We were not successful, and I don't think it was a matter of not trying. I don't think that something was happening behind the scenes since Christmas and nobody could just get a handle on it. Or if they did have a handle on it, they didn't share that information with myself. You would have received the letter that was sent out under the signatures of the Eastern Ontario Mayor's Caucus, EORN Chair and myself, letting everyone know that EORN was not successful. Again, I'm not really sure. We do have the EOWC delegation and EORN is still listed. I'm not quite sure what J. Murray Jones is planning to say at this point. But it's we have to walk a tightrope here. We can't, we're not happy that EORN wasn't chosen, but at the same time, we do have to continue to keep those lines of communication open with the province and hopefully down the road get something. We made it very clear, though, to both ministers that EORN and EOWC's job now will be to monitor what's happening out there with the ISPs and to ensure that the folks who need rural broadband the most are actually not forgotten, or if they do get it, that it's not, the cost is prohibitive for them. So it's basically now we're just going to be overseers, I suppose, and go on from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Warden. And again, thanks for all of your advocacy. I know that our EORN EOWC meeting, we were quite frustrated. I agree with you that I think that there was something going on behind the scenes that we were not apprised of. I think now you are correct. It will be our job to monitor and ensure that these projects go to the people that need them most. This was our biggest fear. I think that they were going to be piecemealed. And I think when the announcement came on July 29th, The projects are wonderful, and there are quite a few in Eastern Ontario, but they do. They said Eganville and Bancroft and a lot of, village centers. And I think that we know that those projects are actually supposed to go into the rural areas. The village of Eganville does have fiber at this time. So it will be interesting to see when we can release the mapping of where these projects go. So again, thank you. Yes, Craig, go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, Paul asked me to speak to this. I spoke to this at the DMP meeting the other day, and was directed to do a few little tasks. So I started to work with Cogeco, Bell, and reached out to the other ones that we know we had provided support under either economic development signature or through the warden signature for a letter of support to these projects. So we are excited. And then, of course, the press thankfully got wind of these announcements as well and has been reporting on it. Our enthusiasm, of course, is huge, but it's tempered as well. As we're starting to hear back from our TSPs, we're understanding the scope is very large. You can't just put fiber in the ground overnight. So some of these projects will not be completed until 2024, for example. So it's not an overnight solution. This is a long build, and I think we just want to keep an eye on this, lobby for these projects to be up in the queue, let's say. I mean, if you're a Cogeco or a Bell or a Rogers or any of these large CSPs, they have been the recipients of a lot of money. So where do they go first? What project is the easy one? The other key point to recognize is that fiber may not necessarily go to all the homes, but a lot of these fiber runs are going to be backfill for the 5G towers that are starting to be built as well, or will be upgraded. So the Bell, the Rogers, all these other TSPs need to run new fiber from these old hubs in Eganville and Barry's Bay and otherwise to get to the towers to run 5G up. So there will be greater 5G connectivity across the valley. So again, lots of money being distributed, but where does the valley sit in the queue of projects? That's what we'll have to determine. Are we 2024 or are we 2022? So we'll keep you up to speed on that as we learn more. Some of it is proprietary, of course, and will have to be shared in confidence, but we will keep you up to date as we learn. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, anything further on broadband? AMO delegation papers. All right, the EOWC briefing notes. And I agree with our CAO. I think this aligns very well with our needs, wants, goals. So congratulations again to the warden. All right, seeing none, Paul, do you want to go to the addendum, please?
Thank you, Chair. On this particular item and the resolution that you have in front of you, we are skirting a bit of tricky ground here in that this is the result of the warden reviewing her package that is confidential for AMO coming up this weekend, but this is a similar item. So just to give you the background, we had a quick chat with AMO about using a version of some of the information that they were providing to their board with their staff recommendation. So what I'm saying to you is this to some degree will mirror what the AMO Board of Directors will see on Saturday, I believe, when the warden has her AMO meeting. But again, we had to be careful because some of that information remains confidential. So what we've done is we have taken, knowing that that information was going to AMO and that their recommendation will be to the AMO board that member municipalities take a similar position. Just given timing, we wanted to get this out to committee so that if council so decided at the end of the month that we could implement this. And again, it's a matter of timing because knowing our council meeting is August 25th, that would essentially give us a couple of days before September 1 to put these measures in place. So we wanted to get it in front of committee sooner than later. So I apologize for the last minute addendum, but it's something that we wanted to put in front. So Chair, if I may, I'll read the recommendation.
Please.
that the Finance and Administration Committee recommend to County Council that the County of Renfrew does hereby commit to the recognition of September 30th as the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, National Orange Shirt Day, and further that the County of Renfrew commits to the sharing of stories of residential school survivors, their families and communities at a future meeting of council, and further that council fly the Every Child Matters flag as per Section 5 of Policy GA12 flag protocol policy for the month of September. Chair, that is the recommendation.
Thank you. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Donahue, seconded by the warden. Discussion. All in favor? Thank you. Can I get a mover and seconder for the administration report as a whole? Moved by Councillor Hunt, seconded by Councillor Peckett. Any further discussion on Paul's report? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, and at that we will move on. Mr. Foss, let's go to page 81. Take it away, sir.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members of the Finance Committee. As the Chair said, page 81 begins the section for corporate services. But before I begin, I just wanted to share with you the fact that we would have a need to hold a brief meeting prior to County Council to deal with a particular item. And that happens to be with respect to our digital strategy tender. So our strategic plan, our current strategic plan, the council adopted for the 2019 to 2022 period contained a number of pillars. One of those pillars was technology acceleration, and within that we had made a commitment to begin work on a digital strategy or an information technology roadmap in the year 2021. To that end, earlier this year, we made an application to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing under the Modernization Fund number 2 to assist with the funding for this information technology strategy. And in fact, we're successful and received a subsidy in the amount of $75,000 toward this project. So to that end, we developed a request for proposal document that was released early in July. That proposal ended at July 30th, and we are currently in the process of our review committee going through a number of proposals. We received 10 proposals and rather complicated proposals. So we've established a review committee going through that piece right now, as well as we've had some discussions with David Fell, who is the Chief Executive Officer for EORN. And David has graciously agreed to participate with us on our evaluation committee. And of course, he brings a wealth of knowledge and experience from the IT sector within the province of Ontario. And saying all that, just to let you know that this process is ongoing. And of course, we're having to juggle time and commitment around AMO next week. But we would have the need to gather this committee together perhaps on Tuesday, the day before County Council, for just a quick meeting to review the recommendations that are coming out with respect to this tender. So we are suggesting that perhaps 11 o'clock on the 24th. We're really quite open to whatever time would work for committee, but given the fact that Wednesday the 25th is our very first in-person meeting here in the building to hold our August County Council session, we didn't think that it was the best way for us to move forward to try and get a finance committee meeting in person just prior to that inaugural, if you will, County Council session in August. So trying to hold a Zoom meeting on the 24th. So Chair, with your concurrence, what we'd like to do then is, following the meeting today, is to send out that meeting announcement for August the 24th. And I'm suggesting maybe 11 o'clock or 11:30. It will be fairly brief. as most of those tender meetings tend to be.
So if I may, is that time and date okay with everybody on the committee? Can you just check your calendars? So just so that we're not back and forth. Brian's good. I'm actually good. I have a meeting at 1:30, but 11 works beautifully. Warden, you're good?
No, I actually, for 2 days prior to county council, I have very full days trying to convince the doctor to come here, so I won't be here. But that doesn't make any difference at all. So just letting you know.
Well, it makes a difference to me. James, are you good? Okay, Tom. Excellent. And Michael. Excellent. So we just need to let Bob and Glenn know. But that's great.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Jeff. That
will
works
send-
far better than before county council on our very first one in person.
Thank you very much, Chair and Committee. And so continuing on with the report, item number 1 is council remuneration to June the 30th. And again, just to note that under the convention expenses area for our 2021 budget, we have adopted $1,875 for each of the members for convention attendance. And so far, it has been rather a virtual experience for everyone. And so thus the thinking behind the change in the allowance. Item number 2 is key performance indicators for the 4 departments that form corporate services. Really just our opportunity to keep council aware of some of the items that we tend to track as far as the departments achieving their key business objectives. And so we leave that for your information. Item number 3, under the Ministry of the Attorney General, we do have Section A, which is copy of the letter that committee directed Warden Robinson to send to the Ministry of the Attorney General regarding the significant shortage of justices of the peace in Ontario and the resulting courtroom backlog. As well, item number B is an update from MAG providing some information on their modernization initiatives and court recovery in Ontario Provincial Offences Court. There's also a number of changes to the legislation allowing the clerk of the court to, from an efficiency perspective, to make some decisions on their own as far as moving the items through the court process. And we certainly welcome those as being in the name of promoting greater efficiency within our POA courts. And so we recognize those as being moves in the right direction. Item 4, staying with Provincial Offences Court, is our workload information for the month of July. And you'll see we have 992 charges that were received. So that's more in keeping with, 1,000 charges a month gets us to 10,000 or 12,000 charges a year. Certainly a significant change from the first 3 or 4 months of this year, where we were trending toward 6,000 or 7,000 charges per year, which has obviously a direct impact on fine revenues and budgetary impacts for the Provincial Offences Court. And item number 5, sort of in relation to the warden's letter about significant reductions in the justices of the peace availability. You can see that for the month of July, we are estimating a backlog in our courts for Part 1 and Part 3 offenses of 884 cases. And at our current number of court day sittings, originally scheduled 5 in the month of July, and we were granted only 2. We estimate that we have 37 court days of backlog, and at our current rate, it's going to take us 12 months to process this particular backlog. So we hope that as the ministry continues to fill those justice positions, and as courts begin to move toward in-person courts and opening up, that we will be able to move this backlog through the process. Item number 6, 2022 budget guidelines. And believe it or not, on an annual basis, we do talk to this committee about budgets in August, and really not looking necessarily for committee direction at this point in time, but really asking our committee to begin giving some thought to some of the principles that are in place before us as we prepare to develop the 2022 budget, operating in capital for the County of Renfrew. We have provided for you some of the bullet points, the details of our long-term financial funding plan. And so in the month of September, we will come back to this committee asking for specific confirmation of those principles that are in the plan, the levy target that we should be working toward in 2022, any restriction for a cap on operating expenditures for all of the departments that are reporting up through all of the committees. Looking for, we will be providing recommendations on a non-union COLA target for 2022. So using that to develop our budget, and a budget schedule, which ultimately leads to a budget workshop traditionally for us toward the third week or so in the month of January of 2022. So not a lot that we really need to discuss today, but rather just that opportunity to begin putting some thoughts together so that we can have this discussion in the month of September. Item 7, 8, and 9 are really confirmation of all the good work that the municipalities have done at each the County of Renfrew, as well as all of the local municipalities in developing budgets and tax rates. So collectively, your treasurers are entering that information into the online property tax analysis system. And it is from that system that we're able to pull this information and provide to you item number 7, which is a summary of all of the tax rates for each municipality within the County of Renfrew. As well, you'll see education rates and the county general tax rates. Item number 8 is really a summary of the taxable and PIL levy by property class by municipality. So you'll see the county levy education taxes as well as local taxes for each municipality by property class, and then totals by class, and then totals by all 3 levels of taxation summarized on that piece of paper. I'm always really quite impressed by the fact that, you know, we set a levy budget via council each year, and this document comes within about $35 on our, you know, $47 million county budget. And you know, so that's somewhat some rounding on, you know, 12 or 13 billion dollars worth of assessment across the county. So the accuracy of the chart that is presented for you in item number 8 is really quite good and should be reflective of the experience that you're having in your municipality. And item number 9 is really that levy summary report, where we look at the levy raised by each municipality in 2020, and we compare it to 2021 to understand what is the municipal levy impact imposed on our ratepayers and within the County of Renfrew. And we talk each year about CVA growth. And of course, that's brand new revenue for each municipality. So if I'm a ratepayer in the County of Renfrew in 2020, the impact to me in 2021 is the information displayed on the far right column, that ratepayer impact, if you will, because of course, growth is brand new revenue for the municipality. And so we've organized that alphabetically, and then just looking at the chart from the top to the bottom as far as the levy increases go, and we just provide that information to you. You see, of course, the County of Renfrew about, I don't know, it's about middle of that page or so, where our total levy change was 3.58%. We had 1.08% CVA growth, which of course we dedicate to our capital plan, which means that our net levy impact to the ratepayers who were around last year and continue to be here this year is 2.5%, which is exactly the budgetary guidelines that were provided to us, to staff, as we developed our 2021 budget. And with that, Chair, maybe I would stop before we move into resolutions.
Thank you. Yes, we'll do some information items. All right, so committee, number one, council remuneration. Number two are key performance indicators. I'll start with A. Okay, Councillor Bros.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, my question was on item number B, so I will wait and Councillor Hunt can go ahead.
Okay, so stay tuned. Does anybody have anything on A? The finance department. Councillor Donahue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one, I think that very much commendations to Mr. Foss and his department. I think that this is a great representation, clear and concise, that can provide comprehensive information to council. The only question I had was with respect to the bottom left, that is the levy target before CVA growth, which is an external to the department as opposed to all of the others, which are internal to the department. And ultimately, the levy target is whatever council identifies as the levy target. So as it being suggested as 3%, it is only 3%. The levy target is whatever council deems the levy target is going to be on an individual basis. So I'm unsure of what the basis of providing the 3% and then the graphical representation of red versus green.
Jeff, do you want to respond?
Oh, thank you, Chair, and through you to Councillor Donahue. Well, the KPIs for the finance department are intended to be a representation of how well we're achieving our key business objectives. So as the treasurer, one of my key business objectives through my boss's office and our annual PMP process is that I am to promote our commitment from a staff point of view on an annual basis to the elements within the long-term financial plan. And I think at a staff level, we recognize how key that plan is to our financial future, both operating in capital and satisfying decision whether or not to adopt that on an annual basis. And so I've highlighted that as a finance department business objective, but quite right, it is subject to council decision on an annual basis. And it may simply be I'm not doing a very good job of communicating how critical that particular element is to the County of Renfrew's financial future. And so I will once again do my very best to communicate the importance of the principles of that long-term financial plan and see where it goes potentially in September as council committee and council makes a decision on levy targets once again. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Supplementary, Councillor Donahue. You're on mute, Councillor Donahue.
What is the jackpot? I think I won. Thank you, Madam Chair.
It's been a year and a half.
Well, it's been one every single meeting that I've been at. I don't know how it would have grown to be any sizable number. I think it's maybe a cup of coffee. In any event, thank you through you to Mr. Foss. But of course, as we've just recognized with the notification of the need at September to come back with the budget guidelines, there are several key points to the long-term financial plan, as we've discussed each year in September, and then each year as well in January. One of which, as I've often have commented, has been the level of our capital reserves. You will note that was the bottom bullet point, even in this report today, is that they not fall below $2 million. If I might, I just took the liberty of reviewing some of our past. Now, I will acknowledge that these were from the unaudited financial statements from the past years. If by your indulgence, Madam Chair, if you would permit me to share my screen, I might give just a couple of examples of some of the other components to the long-term financial plan that I'm presuming are just as critical as they certainly underpin the long-term financial plan.
Okay, I'm not sure who the keeper of this Zoom is, but they would have to authorize you.
Perhaps if I might, just because I'm using two different, as I need to, perhaps I can defer this to County Council and we can engage it then, because unfortunately, the computer that I am using as my virtual medium is different than the computer I have my agenda package on. So at this point, it would probably take too long, and I do not wish to extend this meeting longer. But I think that I certainly am understanding Mr. Foss each year. It is underscored the 3% levy, but as I'm saying, that there are about 7 different components to the long-term financial plan. And notwithstanding that we have reduced it the last 3 years by 0.5 percentage point, we still manage to exceed every year our budgetary predictions, to the point that our capital reserves at the end of 2020 were not $2 million. They were in fact $47 million. So I will defer that, Madam Chair, to the council meeting.
Could I suggest that you do that at our September committee meeting?
Perhaps, yes.
Yeah, I think that's probably more appropriate, because that's also when we will be discussing budget workshop.
Absolutely.
So, okay, excellent. Anything further on A? Councillor Hunt.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to Mr. Foss. Well, first of all, congratulations on the accuracy on the payroll and accounts payable. But I just have a question on the target on accounts payable. I'm surprised to see it below 99%. I would have expected it to be more up in the target, be in the range similar to payroll. And I'm just wondering why that would be the target to have greater than 1% inaccuracy.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. So this KPI we have been using for quite a long time, quite a number of years, and we have a number of technicians that are working in the finance department, and of course these key performance indicators are not don't stand alone just as a reporting staff PMP. So they are targets that they are working toward, so that from an AP perspective, we are looking for 2 things. We're looking for volume being processed, and so there are 30,000 vouchers a year that are being processed within AP. And our standard developed many years ago was to achieve a 99% accuracy rate. And so allowing for a 1% wiggle room, and that's perhaps I might estimate where you're going with this, Councillor Hunt, but obviously the checks and balances that are within the accounts payable system, as far as the quantum of each payment that is being made to a vendor, we have an expectation that that is 100% verified, so that we are never paying something that is not exactly what has been presented to us as an approved and authorized invoice. But these are more errors related to accounts, where those are being charged, where the expense is being charged to, whether we've key punched something in error, some of the details with respect to the processing of the accounts payable process. Those are the wiggle room areas that we've established for our staff. But like bank reconciliation, we reconcile the batch of vouchers to the batch of payments that are about to be processed on a vendor by vendor basis. So we have no wiggle room on the value of each invoice that is being paid by the county of Renfrew. It must balance to the penny on a transactional basis. So I think I understand where your concern is coming from. But like a bank reconciliation, that's non-negotiable. Is the other elements of description of GL accounts, posting errors. Those are the wiggle room errors that we have in accounts payable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent question. All right, anything further on A? Then we will go to B, and I know that Councillor Brose would like to speak to this. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And my question just relates to the human resources pie chart and the number of 61% representing resignations. And I'm just wondering if there's a little more background on that, because I thought that number was rather high, but there could be a very good reason for it. Thank you.
This is going to be a trend, but I'll let Mr. Foss speak to it.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to Councillor Brose. Yeah, thank you. Excellent question. Part of the difficulty of starting KPIs with a new department that's coming into corporate services is that we don't have a well-developed history of data to go back and compare to. So we did a little bit of work since Councillor Brose actually reached out yesterday to have a discussion about this question, and I wasn't available. So I had a little bit of time to go back and have a look at some background. So looking at 2019 and 2020, the resignation number tends to run, 48, 49, 50% of the total turnover on an annual basis here at the County of Renfrew. So at 61%, yeah, it's a little bit higher than we would have expected, perhaps in the last, looking at trends for the last couple of years. So 61% of those 68 turnovers represents 42 in total. And from there, we have 25 that are coming from long-term care. And most of those would be positions like that we're experiencing would be PSWs and some RPN positions. And those would be part-time or contract positions. And primarily, it looks to be where employees are making that decision now, where they had been working perhaps for a couple of employers and dedicating their hours to one single employer. That's sort of anecdotal evidence, but most of that activity is coming from PSW positions. We have in emergency services.
Jeff, can I interrupt you for just a moment, please? Is the warden on the line? Because if not, I've just lost quorum. Sorry, Jeff.
I'll
I wonder if perhaps, I think we've got it back.
I'm good. Brand's back. Yay.
Would you mind
And Gordon's
though,
back. Yay.
Madam Chair, it might be a good idea to apprise all of committee that quorum could be in jeopardy if they vacate.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I thought I kind of made that clear at the beginning that we were missing Councillor Sweden, Councillor Doncaster, but yeah, if people need a break, I'll break right after this before we're closed, okay? So that you'll know when we're gonna have a bit of a break, but please don't leave. All right, Jeff, continue. Thank you.
So of our 42 resignations, we have 25 that are coming from our two homes, primarily in the PSW positions, 7 in emergency services, again, part-time positions and people making decisions about employment. And public works, we had 7 from public works. 4 of those were from administrative support positions, and again, contract or part-time in nature. So to Councillor Brose's question, 61% is probably slightly higher than we've seen in the last few years. But we are also living still in the time of COVID. And so we are, probably seeing some impacts due to COVID on our staff turnovers as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor Brose.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And just a follow-up. So you have mentioned, Mr. Foss, that contract positions are part of this number. So when they're included in the resolutions, is that signing before the end of the term of their contract? I guess I assume that if they're contract positions, they have a term and they wouldn't necessarily be included in this number.
And through you, Chair, I'm sorry, I've opened up some confusion there, Councillor Brose. Of the total turnover of 68, we do have contract end, and that's 11%. So about 7 of those 68 positions are contract end, but specifically with resignations, there are 42 resignations. Those do not include end of contract, but primarily the nature of employment would be part-time positions. And I referenced contract as well. I apologize, primarily part-time positions.
Thank you. All right, anything further on Councillor Brose? No? Okay, Councillor Donahue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I don't have it's somewhat inchoate in my mind, but certainly at the time that we were adjusting the structure of human resources and rolling that into the corporate services structure, it was certainly, in my estimation anyway, made clear that the support that the County of Renfrew HR was to lower tier municipalities was a significant component, and there was clear direction that we wished for that to continue. That I'm just wondering if perhaps Mr. Foss can give consideration towards incorporating something into the KPI on the human resources as per the purchase service or the level of assistance to lower tier municipalities that I think might be very useful as well.
You are absolutely correct.
And through you, Chair, thank you for the comment. And actually, at our September meeting, we intend to spend a little bit of time with you talking about our human resource activities and the types of services that we actually can provide municipalities. The warden has initiated a number of meetings with local councils to talk about a number of things, and one of those are county services and human resource services. And so September is somewhat of a launch for us with the HR department, where we will begin to really make ourselves available in a much more open way. And now that we have fully staffed our HR department, so I think that's an excellent suggestion to build into our KPIs, perhaps even the number of hours of support on a monthly basis that HR is providing to local municipalities. I think that's a great suggestion.
And I think this is a great initiative. I know that there'll be several county councillors that will be very pleased with the offer of lower tier assistance. All right, is there anything further on B? Then I will move to C, IT. D, POA. Seeing none. Number 3, Ministry of the Attorney General. Number 4, POA workload. Number 5, POA, the backlog. All right, moving to number 6, the budget guidelines, which we will definitely do a lot more discussion at our September meeting. Number 7, the tax rate summary. Number 8, the taxable and PIL levy by levy type. Yes, Councillor Hunt.
Yes, through you, Chair, to Mr. Foss. I believe in the past there was a chart that showed how much of the county levy each municipality paid. Is that a chart that is still available? So, for example, if we paid 8% or whatever in our municipalities.
Through you, Chair. Thank you for the question, Councillor Hunt. We typically at budget time, we have a budget bylaw that approves the total $48,945,000 levy. And there's a schedule attached to that budget bylaw, which indicates the levy, including the PIL component that is being levied to each ratepayer across the county, and of course where they happen to be located, which municipality. So that schedule is certainly available. I can make that available. Just send it out to either to Councillor Hunt or to the committee in total. But that is attached to our budget bylaw adopted, I guess, in April of this year.
Okay, well, I can go back and find it then. Thank you.
Yeah, I remembered seeing it too, but I was trying to think of when. So that was a good question. I just don't know what happened to that $35, Jeff. It's very disappointing. Anyway, number 9, the levy summary report. All right, then Jeff will move into resolutions.
Thank you, Chair. So on page 85, resolutions dealing with the Renfrew County and District Health Unit. So just a little bit of background on the resolution, of course, in preparation, as the CAO mentioned, in preparation for AMO, which will take place next week. We developed a number of position papers as we were seeking delegations with the various ministers. One of those position papers on public health, Paul had asked me to do some work on and prepare that position paper. So through that involvement, I did certainly want to reach out to the acting CEO for the health unit to better understand and confirm what the impact of the 2019 provincial budget announcement around a change in the cost sharing formula for public health, moving from this 75-25 split to a 70-30 split. And then that change also being inclusive of some programs which previously were 100% paid for by the Ministry of Health. And so I've attached as appendix 10, I guess it's 1011, the response that I received on that particular issue from their acting CEO. So that email really just confirms, as well as the financial statements, I guess, that we reviewed in the month of June, confirms the fact that the health unit has received mitigation funding directly from the province of Ontario, which will bridge the gap from the 75-25 days to the 70-30 days. And it bridges that for the obligated municipalities as we move to this new cost sharing model. In 2019, once we received the provincial budget in the spring, we did some analysis and some work with the health unit, trying to understand the quantum of what would be the impact of this announcement once it's fully implemented. And we estimated about $960,000 would be the impact to the county, to the obligated municipalities. And this email and the financial statements confirm that, in fact, they are receiving about $910,000 directly from the province of Ontario. In speaking with the acting CEO, she can't quite make the mathematics work, to apply this change from 75-25 to 70-30 across the board to get to the $908,000, but it's certainly in the ballpark. So her email suggests that when mitigation funding lifts, and it is anticipated to lift in 2022, the obligated municipalities will be facing a financial crunch. Thus, the reason for us developing the position paper on public health funding, which is in your package today. So we have, we have a number of issues that have a financial impact, and so we want to raise that to this committee's attention, as well as to all of County Council. That we've got a number of issues, I think, financial issues with respect to the health unit. We have I guess on an annual basis, we have a COLA target, which from an operating expense point of view is about 2.5%. And in 2020, the health unit levied the obligated municipalities 10%. In 2021, we had a operating expense target of 2.5%, and the health unit levied against the obligated municipalities 8.5%. So in combination from 2019 up until 2021, we have increased our levy to the health unit by 19.31%. And that is not related to the change in funding from 75-25 to 70-30. If in fact we move forward in 2022 and mitigation funding is removed from the health unit, you will see a bill from our neighbors in the city of Pembroke for an additional 86.44% of that 908,000, so another $785,000 bill. So in total, in 3 years, your costs related to funding of the health unit will increase by $1,065,000. That is 173% higher than it was in 2019. And that does not include any COLA increase that the health unit may impose on us in 2022. So I'm looking at this from there are 3 significant issues I think that are before us. One is the provincial government removing this mitigation funding, and we are doing our best to lobby and advocate for that change not to happen. And so that was the reason for the delegation request with the minister, and we may have an opportunity to slide that in, although the focus is, as Paul said, it's on some other topics, but we may have an opportunity to briefly slide that in if we can. So that is a big issue before us, but the other issue, of course, is the fact that we have a health unit who is levying to us amounts that are 4 times what the rest of the departments are being asked to manage within. So our recommendation is that the health unit has somewhat opened the door by inviting us to having some increased dialogue and communication. We do have members that sit on the health board, the Board of Health. But I think we have some concerns about what will be the levy impact regardless of mitigation for 2022, when in fact, I suspect that our targets will be again 2 or 2.5%, and where will the health unit go? The third item I think that is somewhat important for you to be aware of, that we have not explored, is that under the Health Protection and Promotion Act, HPPA, the health unit is able to levy obligated municipalities for our share of operating expenses. And I have some concerns at the treasurer that those dollars that were levied to the municipality have been used for capital purposes and not strictly for operating costs. And so I certainly can't confirm that looking at the financial statements, but I have some questions around whether or not that levy has been used for purposes other than operating expenses. And so you've got a number of issues before you that are financial in nature, that are potentially significant financial in nature. And so I am suggesting, I guess, in this resolution that we request a meeting with staff from the Renfrew County and District Health Unit to understand better a couple of topics. One is the reasons behind the significant levy increases of 10 and 8.5%, as well as getting an understanding of what's going to be the plan for 2022. And I would like to explore the issue of obligated municipal levy dollars being used for capital purposes. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Would you like to read the recommendation?
Recommendation at the bottom of page 85 is the Finance Administration Committee request a meeting with the Renfrew County and District Health Unit for the purpose of receiving a detailed explanation of the 10% increase in funding in 2020, the 8.5% increase in 2021, since it is now apparent that the increased funding was not a result of provincial changes in the cost-sharing formula, and further that the Renfrew County and District Health Unit staff communicate their intentions and explanations for any proposed increase for the 2022 fiscal period.
Thank you. So I'll ask for a mover and seconder to get this on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Peckett, seconded by Councillor Hunt. Comments, questions, concerns? Councillor Donahue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I wish to speak to a couple of the points. Certainly the openness, the extension of that both by the warden and by the chair of the Board of Health, I think that's outstanding. And I think in terms of the direction of the resolution, absolutely stand behind that. I think perhaps in the other guise that I from time to time fill, as do you, I think that's something that certainly the Board of Health and the Health Unit should also extend certainly to the other obligated municipalities, being the Township of South Algonquin and the City of Pembroke as well. Certainly with respect to 2021, when we have discussed that, there is no question it was an 8.5% increase requested by the health unit from the obligated municipalities. There was a 3-point that was missing from the initial levy request that came in December, but I think that there was at some point in the spring, there was clarification. It was due to wage increase. There was a second component, but the third component that was substantial was the health unit is now, it is on an FTE basis, and I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head what that is, but there was an expansion at the medical officer of health level, which is to say that the RCDHU now shares with the City of Ottawa an associate medical officer of health. There has not in any time prior to this year been an associate medical officer of health, and it was incredibly timely, particularly given the COVID. So even with respect to that 8.5%, I had disclosed to committee and I believe to council, though I cannot be certain if this conversation was held at council, that I had recommended at the time of this year's increase that some funds be drawn from reserves so as to keep the levy requirement more in the range of what the County of Renfrew levy requirement was. Keeping in mind, of course, again, that the funding partners of the City of Pembroke and the Township of South Algonquin, I do not have firsthand knowledge of what their levy requirement is and whether they would demand it being within theirs as well. So on 2021, I don't really have a whole lot more to add than I already have. With respect to 2020, what I can say in both the wording of the resolution and in the background is it is categorically incorrect. The 10% increase requested by the health unit in 2020 was absolutely and exclusively due to the cost share adjustment. What I can report to Finance and Administration Committee, while within the mandatory programs, there was some adjustment from one to another. And just to illustrate as an example, rather than concrete example, more money was shifted into safe drinking water and out of perhaps inspections of small drinking water systems. And I use that only as an example. I have no knowledge I do have knowledge, but I'm not going to review that. At the end of the day, the bottom line was the amounts required that were subject to share were unchanged from 2019 through 2020. I'll repeat, the budget for 2020 at the time that it was prepared was unchanged from 2019 to 2020. Subsequently, COVID interfered with a great deal of finances and reporting and requirements of municipalities, along with boards of health and public health agencies. So it is correct as well. The mitigation funding that was budgeted in 2020 by the health unit was just under $510,000. That was the mitigation funding that was requested of the province. That was the 90% of the increased levy due entirely and exclusively to the adjustment to the cost share formula. In the event, in the quarterly report, Q1 quarterly report, it is still cited as the expectation of receiving $509,647. By the time the second quarter or Q2 financial report was made to the Board of Health, that figure had changed from 509,000 to 908,400. It was an increase of just under 400,000. I have indicated to this committee, perhaps to council, in previous discussions, I have asked on at least 3 occasions for an explanation of why we received more mitigation funding than we had budgeted for. There has not been an answer forthcoming, so I am at a loss to be able to explain that to committee or ultimately to council. But what I can say is when that levy requirement was provided to the County of Renfrew in December of 2019, it was exclusively, entirely because of the adjustment from a 75-25 cost share to a 70-30 cost share. So both the resolution and the background here, wherein it says the 10% increase demanded by the Renfrew County and District Health Unit in 2020, it says 2021, I'm assuming that that's a typographical error, demanded had nothing to do with the provincial announcement. That is categorically incorrect. Again, I commend the warden and the chair of the Board of Health for opening a direct line of communications, because it is unfortunate, notwithstanding that I had brought forward this information to a prior committee, I think on more than one occasion, to see yet again what I consider to be significantly pejorative language and incorrect. And what I would say for those who may remember their elementary math, perhaps 2 negatives can be a positive. In this instance, 2 negatives are compounding a negative. And I think that that is an unfortunate development. And I look forward to actually having a good and open line of communication, but that is abjectly false. The 10% increase required by the Renfrew County and District Health Unit in 2020 was absolutely due to the cost share adjustment.
Thank you for that. And I knew that as well, even though I didn't sit on the Board of Health in 2020, because you have brought this up at our Board of Health meetings, Michael, and that's exactly what we were told. So I found this item somewhat confusing, but I do appreciate your very descriptive account of what happened. Councillor Peckett, please.
Thank you, Chair. So if I'm understanding correctly, and maybe I misunderstood Mr. Foss, but I understood him to say that that increase in 2020 and 2021 was not a result of the 70-30 change from the province. And so now I'm more confused than ever. And Councillor Donahue is saying absolutely it was due to that. So
You are correct. And I think that what Councillor Donahue is saying is that although this recommendation is incorrect, I think that we should pass it so that there is an open line of communication wherein we can get the appropriate information in writing between the County of Renfrew and our CDHU. But
so
you're absolutely correct, Councillor Peckett.
okay, I agree with that, but there has to be some more. I don't know whether an audit is required or somehow to make sure, because I've certainly put more trust and faith in our county treasurer than I do in the Board of Health's accounting system.
Thank you for that. Councillor Doncaster, did you have, welcome, by the way, did you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. So I just wanted to clarify something. So the for the 2020, the levy request or demand of 10%, was that based on the budgeted value of the 500 plus K? And then the actual mitigation funding was 908. Would that not have created a surplus?
I think the trouble is that we're not even sure why we got 908. That was of great confusion. And I still don't believe that we've, as a board, that we've received an explanation that would make sense. Councillor Donahue could probably talk about this better than I can, just because I'm fairly new to the board and we haven't had that many meetings. Councillor Donahue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And in response to Councillor Peckett, the same auditing firm that provides the audited financial statements to the County of Renfrew, which were provided in June of this year. I'm sure a committee will recall there was a copy of the same audited financial statement provided by Scott Rosine Black and Locke on that same agenda for our CDHU that was available for all of committee and council to review that audited statement as well. What I would suggest on 2020, and I'm confining my comments at this point to that because it is what you are seeing in your report is abjectly incorrect. There was an additional augmentation to the mitigation funding that was budgeted initially in 2020 that led to the levy requirement of all of the municipalities, inclusive of the city of the County of Renfrew, was with an expectation of receiving $509,647 from the province of Ontario. In the quarterly report from Q1, you will see that that was still the expectation of receiving that. In the quarterly report for Q2, you will see that there was an additional $398,000 variance going to be provided by the province of Ontario. At that point, I had requested clarity on what that extra $398,000 was for, and I have yet to have received a satisfactory answer. I certainly will acknowledge that. But that extra $398,000 came to the Board of Health, to the health unit mid-year. When we budgeted, the budget was essentially frozen for 2020 over 2019. Therefore, it was a very simple calculation that any increase was due entirely to the adjustment of the cost share. Madam Chair, in this instance, I had anticipated that perhaps this might go there. I do believe I have the capacity to provide both the budget that was adopted, the chart showing the budget that was adopted by the health unit, in addition, the Q1 and Q2 financial reports, wherein maybe it can provide a little bit more clarity to the committee. By your indulgence, if you would allow me to share my screen.
I think that would be excellent. Who is the keeper of this meeting that can allow Councillor Donahue to steal the screen?
He should have a capability to share his screen.
Thank you, Rose. Do you see that, Michael?
I am doing it right now as we are speaking, yes. Just bear with me one moment. Let's see if that's sharing. Okay, this is the budget. I can see a few of committee. Can one of you at least give me a thumbs up? Okay, so everyone can see it. So what you will see as I'm scrolling down, sorry, here's the 2019 budget, here's the 2020 budget. You will see that they are different. 8,366,000 here, 8,516,000 here. The total difference is $150,600. If I scroll a little farther over, the increase reflects new seniors dental care funding. Unfortunately, I can't seem to get it over. In any event, the entire $150,600 was in programs that the province was going to fund entirely, 100%. Therefore, this figure here and this figure here from the municipalities, from the cost shared perspective, were unchanged. You will note here, just above my hand icon, 509,647 was the budgeted mitigation increase. I'll repeat, that was the budgeted mitigation increase, and that 509,000 offset what was a total of something on the order of 677,000. So that was what we had budgeted for. Now, this is the Q1 report. You can see that the health unit is still expecting $509,647 in mitigation funding. Finally, this is Q2. You will see that that was the budgeted mitigation funding expected. Here was the additional $398,000, ultimately, which led to the $908,400. It was mid-year when we became aware that we were actually going to receive $908,000. Had we known that in December of 2019, there is no question that we likely would have adjusted the levy requirement. We did not know that in 2019. In 2019, what we knew was that we had this increased requirement that was entirely due to the cost share formula adjustment. All of this is simply to address that first line with respect to the background when it says the 10% increase had nothing to do with the provincial announcement regarding cost sharing formula. That is abjectly incorrect. And I will cease sharing my screen.
Thank you. Just so I can start my video again. Perfect. Thank you for that, Michael. All right. Does anybody have any further questions? Warden.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Donahue, for that information. My goal is very simple today, is to try to let go the past how many years of issues that have been back and forth within the County of Renfrew and the public health. I'm not putting any blame anywhere. But until we are prepared to start moving forward and having a dialogue and having communication, rehashing old wounds or old issues, I don't see that as a benefit to any of us going forward. So I was listening, but I was also speaking with Mr. Morrow during the conversation, and I've really asked for a change in the recommendation that is before us today. I think we have to show that we want to have a conversation. Rehashing 2019, 2020, and quite frankly, 2021 is going to get us nowhere. But what I would really like to do is to have a conversation now about what 2022 is going to look like for all of us, for all of the contributors to public health. That I think is much more valuable than spending time, as showing what we believe, that they show us what they believe, and they're never the same. They haven't been the same for years. So I really think let's move forward. Now that may be very naive of me, but that's what I'm asking.
And I appreciate that, Warden. And I think I'll revert to what I said earlier, is that although this may be incorrect, I think the flavor of it is correct, that it's time that the open communication become much more robust. And so I'm not sure what you were proposing to change the recommendation to, but I think the recommendation as written, I think that we do deserve some amount of explanation for at least 2021. So that's my feeling anyway, but I will defer to whatever you think works for you, because you're the one in communication. I just sit on the Board of Health.
Well, that's very sweet of you, but also, I mean, our treasurer does have a job to do, and I totally respect what Jeff is telling us today. He has some concerns, and that's his job to bring those concerns to us. So if we need to look at 2021, then so be it. And it's just, this is just a suggested recommendation that I've asked Mr. Morrow to present. If it's defeated, I'm okay with that too. I just wanted people to know what my position is going forward. I've received 2 letters from the chair of public health asking to open communication up. I think it's about time we did that. I'd much rather have a conversation about the budget of 2022 prior to the budget of 2022 being set. I think that's much more valuable to us than waiting to see what the public health wants from us and then reacting.
Okay, so right now I do have a mover and seconder for this on the floor. Councillor Donahue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm in just shy of complete agreement with the warden on this, and I recognizing that it is not germane at all to this conversation that these and treaties had been made prior to today. And I think that nothing but good comes of having good open lines of communication. When I had perhaps considered that might be what the warden was considering, what I would be suggesting is that this recommendation can still move forward of having that discussion, but I would seek to remove the unfortunate thing is I cannot seemingly come up with a definition other than the allegations that are contained herein. I will attest to as being certainly for 2020 incorrect. And I take particular issue with that because when it says, as was previously discussed by this committee, that was what I brought forward to this committee. So the undertone to this is that that was misleading information. And I have presented to the committee today what is the basis for that. When the Board of Health adopted the budget for 2020, it was entirely due to the cost sharing formula that the levy requirement went up. So this is making an allegation that I have already put in front of committee is not supported. I'll repeat that. It did have everything to do with the cost sharing formula. My preference would be to enable this to be frank and open and productive conversation, that when there is uncertainty, it's best left for those conversations as opposed to being put into a public report and discussed in a public forum when there is not certainty to that, because that I'm hoping that I, through the documents that I shared, can demonstrate that it was entirely due to the cost sharing formula adjustment. This is counterproductive to be entering those conversations if we are to adopt the resolution containing inaccurate allegations.
All right, so I do have a mover and seconder, and I do have it on the floor. So I have to call for the vote. I'm assuming that the warden's revision is not a friendly amendment, but perhaps no, it's not. No, I assume that, yeah. Oh, I'm getting the standby signal.
Yep.
Yes, Gordon.
Because I had a little bird in my ear and he's right beside you. I am going to make a motion to amend the resolution, and I guess, Mr. Morrow, you have it on the screen. It's just a significant change, so I didn't think it'd be too friendly, but we'll try.
Okay. Well, I guess if it's friendly, then the mover and seconder can make a decision.
No. So thank you, Chair, if I may. So the warden has essentially put a subsidiary motion on the table. And so now we need to deal with her motion to amend the resolution. So we would then need a mover and a seconder for the proposed amendment that you have in front of you. And then should that be accepted by committee, what we would do then is we would go back to the original motion and have the vote on the motion as amended.
Okay, so if everybody's had a chance to read that, can you unshare, please, Paul?
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, so I will ask for a mover and seconder for the amendment. Councillor Donahue and the warden. Discussion. Councillor Donahue.
I just want to express my appreciation to the warden. I think that this will engender a much more robust and frank discussion, and look very much forward to having those open lines. And I certainly commend the warden and the chair of the Board of Health for recognizing this. And I think that this will go a long way towards establishing a good and open rapport. So thank you for making this possible.
Okay, so I'll call for the vote on the amendment, please. All in favor? Excellent. So we will go back to the resolution that we had. All in favor? Opposed?
I believe that's as amended, Chair. Thank you.
Sorry, my bad. It wasn't a very friendly amendment, though. I'm just saying. Okay, thank you. And at that, Jeff, we'll move on to your final item, employment bylaw, number 11.
Number 11 is really just some changes that we need to embed within employment bylaw number 1. Probably easier to go to page 87, which is the background of these items, talking about positions A and B dealing with COVID screener and visit facilitator positions. These were approved by County Council in September of 2020. In June of 2021, Council have already approved the position of Administrative and Business Support Assistant, Tourism Communication Coordinator, Information and Research Coordinator, as well as Secretary Treasurer of the Land Division, as well as the County Planner. So what we are simply doing is catching up and ensuring that those changes in those positions, titles, and some of them moving on the grid have been embedded within employment bylaw number 1. Item number H, within the Human Resources Department, we had a generalist as well as a specialist position that are being removed from employment bylaw number 1. Those positions no longer exist. In I and J, at the May 26th session of County Council, council made a decision to approve business plans for the position of housing manager and manager of real property, and those changes as well are embedded in employment bylaw number 1. So, Chair, with that, we do have that rather lengthy recommendation. I can read it out if you wish, but there are items A through J which have already been approved by County Council.
Thank you. So I'll just say that the recommendation is that the Finance and Administration Committee recommends that County Council approve the following changes to employment bylaw number 1. And you have all those changes. These are housekeeping items. I will ask for a mover and seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Hunt, second by Councillor Bros. Discussion. All in favor? And can I get a mover and seconder for the corporate services report as a whole, please? Moved by, let's get Councillor Doncaster in the minutes, and Councillor Rose is seconding. Anything further on the corporate services report? All in favor? All right. So is there any new business? Seeing none. So we do have a closed session. So Sean, if you could take us to break. How long does it take everybody to get coffee and bio break? Do you want 5, 10? It's your choice, guys. It's just 11 o'clock now. Councillor Donahue is voting for 10. Going once, going twice, 10 it is. Okay, Sean, you can take us down. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a good break. We are going to go back to new business, and I will call on Councillor Doncaster.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My apologies. I missed that. I was daydreaming, I guess. I just wanted to inform committee, and I will do it at council, that I have been appointed to FCM committees, the Ontario Regional Caucus, the Rural Forum, the Standing Committee on Community Safety and Crime Prevention, and the Standing Committee on International Relations. I'm extremely pleased with that, and I will do my best to bring issues and concerns of Renfrew County to FCM committees. Thank you.
That is excellent news. Congratulations. Those sound like really good committees too.
Yeah, they are for sure.
Like,
Hope to actually
pertinent
see
to
you back
us.
here from time to time, Glenn. Not sure you're going to be able to with that workload.
Yeah, well, we'll see. They
Ask a
tend
busy
to
person, right?
they tend to put all the meetings together in groups, so we'll see how that works.
Will FCM be doing hybrid, like if you want to zoom in as opposed to being there in person, or are they?
I haven't seen that yet. We're still virtual. There's a question mark for November, the end of November in Ottawa, but then March of 2022 is scheduled as in person in Windsor.
Excellent. I guess it's a challenge when all the different provinces are at different stages.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So at that point, I will ask for a mover and seconder to go into a closed session under section 239.2, section D, labor relations or employee negotiations. Moved by Councillor Donahue, second by Councillor Bros. All in favor? All right, we are now in close. So Sean. you. Welcome back, everyone. So the date of our next meeting is Thursday, September 9th, 2021. And it will remain to be seen whether we meet by Zoom or in person. But I'm sure the warden and our CAO will make that decision fairly soon. And at that, I will ask for an adjournment, please. Moved by Councillor Donahue, second by Councillor Bros. All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you, team. Great work.